you know. But it should be duly noted that here it's the people of the wedding drinking the wine. And whereas with Yah's passion, it is he and later the apostles that drink of the enemy's cup of judgment and wrath. You know, Yahushua had to drink of the judgment and wrath of the Pharisees, scribes, and Sadducees. You know, he had to drink of their wrath. Now later on, they're going to have to drink of his. You know, but his hour is not yet come. You know, that's the hour that he's speaking of. You know, we ourselves, you know, when we continue this walking, especially if we live to see the end time events, you know, will be made to drink of the wrath, the judgment and wrath of the great whore. You know, where it says that, you know, she makes the nations, you know, she's drunken with the blood of the saints, you know, and makes the nations drink of her cup of abominations. You know, so again, you know, this speaking more so to when Yah get ready to pour out his cup of wine and you know, and make folks drink his cup of wine. We see in Matthew 20:22 and Matthew 20:23. Can I have somebody read Matthew 20:22 and 23?
And Yeshua answered and said, And Yeshua answered and said, Ye know not what ye ask. Are you able to drink of the cup that I shall drink of, and be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with? And they said unto him, We are able. And he said unto them, Ye shall drink indeed of my cup, and be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with. But to set on my right hand and on my left is not mine to give, but it shall be given to them for whom it is prepared of my Father.
Okay, and this is just scriptural support of it being, you know, the cup that Yeshua had to drink of was the wrath, the judgment and wrath of the scribes, Sadducees, and Pharisees. You know, they judged him, of course, which was unrighteous judgment. You know, they wrongly judged him and accused him and made him drink of their wrath, you know, thereby, you know, crucifying him. And here it is, we see that he's speaking to his disciples, you know, saying that, yeah, indeed, they will drink of his cup as well. You know, that same cup that which Yahushua would have to drink of, and you know, and likewise with all the martyrs of that die in the body of Yahushua, you know, they're drinking of that same cup. Now, Yahushua was referring to his hour of judgment when he's to pour out his wine, that is, his judgment and wrath, which had not yet come. You know, which is spoken of in Revelation 14, 7 through 10. Can I have my next reader read Revelation 14, verses 7 through 10?
Saying with a loud voice, Fear Elohim, and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him that made heaven and earth and the sea and the fountains of waters. And there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. How far am I reading?
To 10.
And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, If any man worship the beast in his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of Elohim, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb.
Okay, so we see verse 7 says, for the hour of his judgment is coming. You know, this is also Yeshua's hour. you know, that he's speaking of, the hour of his judgment. It says, the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of Elohim, which is poured out without mixture, into the cup of his indignation. This is his cup of wrath, you know, that he's going to pour out and make people drink. You know, no, this time had not yet come. You know, they was wanting, they was deficient of wine, you know, but he wasn't about to give them this wine. And this speaks to the marriage supper of the Lamb. This speaks to the time when his marriage will take place, you know, and as the marriage ceremony progresses, they will need wine. And when they need wine, he will pour out his cup of wrath, you know. He will supply that wine. But he was telling his mother, his time hadn't come yet. Yochanan 2:5-6 says, his mother saith unto the servant, whatsoever he saith unto you, do it. And there were 6 water pots of stone, after the manner of the purifying of the Yahudim, containing 2 or 3 firkins apiece. Now, it says after the manner of the purifying of the Yahudim. Now, what this is referring to is actually the traditions, the tradition that the Yahudim used to have, that's spoken of in Mark 7. We see here in Mark 7:3-4, it says, for the Pharisees and all the Yahudim, except they wash their hands often, eat not, holding the tradition of the elders. And when they come from the market, except they wash, they eat not. And many other things there be which they have received to hold, as the washing of cups and pots and brazen vessels and of tables. So they had this custom, you see, where they used to, you know, wash their hands before they ate, you know, which is not a bad custom in and of itself, you know. But, you know, they were ready to really hurt some people if they didn't do it, you know. Right. And, you know, this was not, you know, of Torah. This is something that they added, you know. But that's what these water pots were. You know, they were they were pretty large. These were some pretty large pots. You know, as you see, you know, a firkin was approximately 9 gallons. And it said it held 2 to 3 firkins, so, you know, each pot. So we're talking about a total of like 108 to 162 gallons of wine that, you know, that was made of water that was made wine. That's a lot of wine, amen? Amen. You know, see, but you also have to understand, you know, the marriage ceremonies back then was a little different than the ones nowadays. They were huge. There was many people that was invited to them, you know, and they were like a week long. It wasn't just like, you know, what we see today. You know, we have the marriage and then they go and have the, what do they call it? Reception, yeah, you know, and it's a one-day thing. You know, no, this was a 7-day event. You know, the marriages it was a 7-day event, and in which they just, you know, feasted, you know, feasted rather, very festively, you know, during the festival of the ceremony, the marriage ceremony. You know, they really did it up, you know. So this wine wouldn't have just been for that day. It would have been for the remainder of the feast. And we already see that, you know, it was already the 3rd day in. You know, so, you know, they still had another 4 days to go. So, you know, hence, you know, a lot of wine was needed. But let's take a look at the symbolism involved here, you know. As we see these 6 water pots of stone, you know, 6 represents the number of man. It also represents work, you know. For from the very beginning, you know, Yah created man on the 6th day. Amen. So, you know, this is where, you know, people get, you know, 6 representing man. But, you know, even before he created man, he worked those other 5 days, including that 6th day. You know, so 6 also represents the work, more so like work done in the earth. The work done in the earth. Likewise, Yah tells us to work 6 days, rest the 7th. You know, so again, you see that 6 correlating with the work that's done in the earth. You know, so this 6 speaks to man, and it speaks to the works done in the earth. Okay? Now, we see the water pots. The water pots, you know, they were used for washing, and like I said, they was real large. You know, they had to hold, like, you know, each one held 18 to 27 gallons, pretty much. You know, so these were some really large pots. But what you have to take into account is, like, oftentimes these pots would have been made out of clay. You know, these were made out of stone. So Yah is telling us something here. You know, Yah is telling us something here. It's not by happenstance. He could have just said 6 water pots. No, he had to say 6 water pots of stone. The reason he's pointing that out is because he want us to take that as a remez. You know, he want us to recognize that and identify that here it is. You have these water pots. You know, that's that people are using to purify themselves with. You know, so this is actually speaking to the water that's being in there. It's actually speaking to the living water. You know, because the way the custom went, they had to take the water and they had to pour it over their hands. See, they couldn't just like dip their hands in it. They had to pour it over their hands because it had to be living water, which means moving water. So they took it and dipped it out, and they would have somebody pour it over their hands as they wash their hands. You know, now this is, it don't take a rocket scientist to see that this is referring to Yahshua, you know, who is the rock. Amen. You know, out of his belly will flow what? Living waters. Okay, so we see that these is 6, you know, 6 of these pots, you know, speaking of, you know, man, and speaking of the works of Yahushua that Yahushua does as a man, and even as we do as men in Yahushua. You know, so this is speaking of the work of Yahushua being done in the earth. Now, Exodus 17:6 should come to mind. It says, "Behold, I stand before thee there upon the rock in Horeb, and thou shalt smite the rock, and there shall come water out of it, that the people may drink." And Moshe did so in the sight of the elders of Israel. See, this wasn't the, you know, this here in Yochanan wasn't the first time that the people got fed water from a rock. You know, water from stone. Amen. You know, here it is, we see an account in the Exodus of when they got fed water, or was given water from stone. So this brings this back to mind, and of course that water was Torah, you know, the word of Elohim, you know, and we know that was Yahushua. 1 Corinthians 10:4 bear witness to that. And did all drink the same spiritual drink? For they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Messiah. So no ifs, ands, or buts about who that rock was out in the wilderness that they got their water from. Amen. You know, just as no doubt, you know, that these 6 water pots of stone, you know, typify Yahushua, you know, and the water that's within them typifies his word. Okay? Okay. Now, they're going to fill the water pots. Yochanan 2:7, Yahushua saith unto them, fill the water pots with water. And they filled them up to the brim. You know, and this water typifies the word, even as we see in Ephesians 5:26, that says that he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of the water of the word. Okay, now we need to take note that Yahushua instructs his servants to fill the water pots of stone, which typify the Messiah, which collectively typify Yah's many-member body and his work of purification, that is baptism. You know, that's what baptism is about. We see in Yochanan 3, verses 25 and 26, you know, they were actually, you know, disputing about purifying. Come on, next reader, read Yochanan 3, 25 and 26.
Then there arose a question between some of John's disciples and the Jews about purifying. And they came unto John and said unto him, Rabbi, he that was with thee beyond Jordan, to whom thou bearest witness, behold, the same that baptizeth, and all men came to him.
Okay, this word purifying is the same word that is used in the previous verse in chapter 2 of Yochanan, saying that after the manner of purifying, the Yahudim, I just hacked that all up, didn't I? Yeah, after the manner of purifying of the Yahudim. You know, that word purifying and this word purifying is the same Greek word. Okay, and we see that the baptism is referred, you know, concerning that purifying, which is what they would do, you know, also when they went to cleanse things in these water pots. You know, if they was going to purify or cleanse a pot or whatever, what have you, they would dip it in the water, pour water over it. But point being, you know, this is a prophetic picture also of the work of purification that Yahushua came in the earth to do. You know, now we're going to see how that plays out, you know, how that water actually turns to wine, you know, which we already spoke on a little bit, you know, when Yahushua passed, you know, his word was made wine. I think I'm getting ahead of myself. So whereas the filling of the water pot speaks to Yahushua's commands that he has added to the Torah. You see that one of the works that Yahushua came to do